Welcome to our Assets Management on the Cloud webinar. Thank you for joining us, and we're excited to share with you all some ideas on how to manage the assets that are important to the operation of your company. My name is Gabriela Andrade, and I am a marketing specialist here at GERS. I'll be giving a brief introduction, followed by the more technical side of the presentation presented by Leinyker Palacios. If you have any questions for the Q&A, please send the GERS host a private chat, and we will read them at the end of the presentation. We'd also like to remind you that the webinar will be recorded and shared on our social media pages in the coming days. First, I will give a brief introduction of our company, GERS. GERS is an electrical engineering consultant group that was established in 1981. To date, we have completed over 6,500 engineering projects and over 3,700 electrical studies in over 45 countries. On this slide, you can see the countries where we have carried out projects from our offices in the United States, Mexico, Colombia, and Chile. On the next slide, we will discuss some examples of assets that have This includes communications equipment, computer technologies, and even the way we store our files. In our museum here, we show these assets, which at one time were important for our operation. In our training lab, we also have a synchronous generator and a PV system, which surely is an important asset when it comes to marketing or selling energy. With these photos, we are introducing the main focus of this presentation, which is asset management systems. We will not be presenting our ideas from the point of view of consultants, but by the point of view of utilities or other companies, because their most important assets that they want to keep secure are not the same assets that we would have as a services company. Asset management systems were born from these two standards, and the need to implement these fundamental rules. The first standard, the Bsi PAS 5512, was first established for physical assets, but the ISO standards tend to an asset management system with an organizational context. In other words, it defines which assets have the most importance or greatest value for a company. For this presentation, we will be accompanied by engineer Leinyker Palacios, the Director of Power Systems Analysis Tools here at GERS. He will be presenting the information, especially from an electrical engineering perspective, and will give a focus on how PSAT tools can help in the evaluation of assets. Welcome, Leinyker.
Thank you very much, Gabriela. Good afternoon to everybody. I am glad to attend this webinar about the asset management systems, where we are able to find how a PSAT solution is able to provide us different applications, even if we speak about the asset management. So I am showing here my contact information because maybe after all this presentation, some of you is very interested to know how could we apply our solutions when we speak about maintenance, among other topics when we are focusing about asset management systems. Welcome to everybody. So I am going to start this presentation. So first of all, I think it is very, very important to know what does the management mean. In this slide, what I'm going to explain here is really the management meaning. And basically, we are going to illustrate this application with a little pen. This pen is having here a little issue. The issue is basically that for supplying the load to this demand, we are having here a little overloading on the line. So in this case, we are having an application where basically we are affecting an issue on the operation of the network. So he must take a decision. Which kind of decision is he able to provide us? Maybe reduce the load, maybe he can approach new technologies, and basically finally he decided to increase the loading capabilities of the power lines if he add here another power line solution. In this case, he is able to attend the demand. In this case, we are having the same loading, but now we are increasing the capabilities that we could find on the transmission line. What we are explaining here is that basically what our friend did was take a decision, and that decision should be planned. That decision should be according to all the requirements that the strategic plan in our companies should provide to us. Basically, we need to involve technical topics, we need to involve economical topics, among other themes that we could find directly when we speak about the strategic plan for any corporation. The asset management systems is able initially from the standard PAC 55, but currently we are speaking about another standard ISO 55000, where basically it has been increasing the application in different assets that offers value for our companies. Now, what we are going to do here is making decisions. But what is our criteria for taking whatever of those decisions? And we are proposing here that basically if we are able to find the cloud applications, the cloud application will provide us different strategies to obtain better results. For example, do you remember, Gabriela, when we used the libraries, when we used the books, and even the people that likes to read together or likes to hear currently, they use the book. Do you remember, Gabriela, that before we have new technologies, we need to attend the task using these libraries?
Yeah.
And basically, what would you do currently? Currently, what would you do if you need to know whatever?
The first thing, go online, use Google, use search functions like that.
Yes, basically that we can use currently is to ask the question to our internet applications. And we are able to find different solutions on cloud that offers to us different applications depending on which, what do we need from that. For example, we are able to approach the cloud solutions if we need the social media, if we need the storage capabilities, if we need the cloud computing, if we need to search, and of course our company is also available on cloud applications. So what we are showing here is different strategies that we are able to increase when we use the cloud solutions. I mean the storage, I mean the information systems, the communication system, processing, control, automation, and of course the management. And the management is the focus on this application, on these slides. Because when we speak about the management and taking those decisions that I explained before, now we can focus our application when we need to pay attention directly on our assets. And our assets should be those that offer to us different values to our company operation. Now, focusing directly on the asset management systems, what we are explaining here is, for example, for a utility, what are the assets? We can find here the transmission lines, we can find here the circuit breakers, we can find the distribution lines, the distribution transformers, and of course from an industry we also find the different machines to increase our production. For example, the manufacturers of course they will have different assets depending on which is the operation. Now what we are showing here is that we need to take different decisions. For example, the expansion of the network, we need to replace the assets, we need to increase our quality of the service, new technologies, usage reduction, incentives, and more another kind of the decisions that we need to take on the networks. Now, the question is, what is the information that we could approach? We have different databases, for example, the assets that currently are out of service or the age of them, the investments, the loss of the value, among other database that we could find that are we able to provide us different criteria for taking decisions. And the objective, what will be? Maybe the income, so of course, if the management system is to provide us new strategies for increasing the life of any assets or for increasing our operation. we need to focus the information that we were able to find in our companies. That finally we are adding here is the cloud. The cloud is added here basically because currently we find new technologies. And the technologies are, for example, tables, are our cell phones, are our laptops, and even communication between devices, even communication between the SCADA systems among other applications. And that is able if we use directly the application for asset management systems on the cloud. So my invitation is for all the participants that we have here is to answer these questions. These questions was taken from the Institute of Asset Management in 2012, and I invite you to attend these questions. I will give you 20 seconds to read that and internally answer, give your own answers, because it will allow you to have a diagnostic from your current asset management system. Okay, I hope most of the questions was solved for you. I mean, if you have the answers for these questions, you are having the first steps to implement your asset management system. Of course, I will share you these slides, and the presentation, as Gabriela said, will be shared with you, where you are able to identify these questions, where basically I will invite you to know your company. I will invite you to detect what are the assets that currently you are having in your operation and what are more critical than others. So I will add that sixth question, and is, if really do you know your assets, and if really you have a good list of them and you are able to identify currently what of them need attention. So now we are going to speak about the maintenance strategies, and what we are proposing here is, if you know how to ensure the minimal functionalities and keep the costs as a minimum, where basically we are having here 4 strategies from our reference here, and those 4 strategies are part. The first of all is the corrective maintenance, where basically if you have a fault, you need to correct it. You need to have a correction of the fault, where basically you will need that a fault occurs. Of course, we won't like that. The second one is the time-based maintenance. What does it concept mean? Basically, that we have here is we are able to schedule a maintenance, maybe 1 week, maybe 2 months, maybe 1 year, and it depends on the experience that we could have, that we could find on the assets operation, and even the specification from manufacturer, among other criteria that we could find when we have an scheduling on the time-based. This is one of the most commonly used methods for the maintenance, when we have a period scheduling for the maintenance. Now we are adding here too that may be more complex. For example, the condition-based. And when we speak about the condition-based, we need to have a measurement about how is the condition of the asset. Which kind of testing do I need? How could I identify if my asset is in good conditions or not? And we are having here different experiences, where we need historical profiles, we need the experiences of the engineer that has been in contact with the asset. We need to attend the different reference, because have a measurement on the condition is really a big steady state of the art. Now, that finally we are adding here is the RCM method. The RCM is reliability centered maintenance, which have a combination of them. I mean, if you have the condition, if you have the importance, and you have the reliability of the system when we have affectations, if the asset fails, we need to add this as an importance criteria. Now, these are the initials of them: TVM, CVM, and RCM. Now, what I am going to show here is that really we based in a real researching about these applications, we will be able to find that really we will have good results about the operation of the maintenance when we apply RCM methods. That this slide shows is that you can have reduction on the cost because the maintenance in around 55%. And we are having here a real study where TVM method has around $6 million, CVN about $3-4 million, and RCM around $1-7 million. So really we will having here better results, but of course in this case we will need more information. And that is one of the main challenges that we are able to find here when we try to implement a really state-of-the-art in asset management systems. How could we implement it? It could be implemented based in a real reference where it shows us that selecting an appropriate maintenance strategy can reduce the cost without compromising the required functionality. What this reference means is that really if you have a combination of the condition and the importance of the asset, you will have a measurement, a real operation of the scheduling for the maintenance. Now the steps here is to implement it. First of all, we can speak about the conditions. And in the conditions, we are able to find different strategies. For example, different testings about the conditions. For example, we have chemical testings. For a transformer, we could find field data, we could find measurements, testings, frequency response analysis, and other that are able to provide us some values that can identify the asset condition. Really, in this case, we also need to combine the experiences with the engineers of the operators of the asset that are able to identify if really any asset is in good condition or not. The another topic is the priorities. In this case, we need to define the importance of any asset, and that is if you have a materialization of the risk, what are the consequences? You need to identify how much is the importance of that asset for the network operation. Finally, when you have that measurement, you can implement it. How do you implement it? Basically, you have here the installation. You need to have trainings, and you need to implement your enterprise asset management. The EAM solutions are a clear requisition for the current asset management system because we need to combine all databases, and we need to increase the participation with this EAM system when we are able to provide some criteria to replacement for scheduled maintenance, to check what is the location of that, whatever. Basically, we are able to integrate different databases, for example GIS, for example SAP, ERP, among other sources of information. You can integrate it directly to a solution, Neplan AM, and that application is developed directly from an institute that can integrate the different methods for having here the scheduling of the maintenance, to identify the condition, to identify the importance, and to have georeferencing of that. Now the question to everybody is, what does NEPLAN AM means? Now we have here a PSAT solution. The PSAT solution allows maintenance evaluation based on 3VM, based on CPN and RCM that I explained to you before. It also has an integration between the network with the reliability calculations with the asset management system. It offers the asset management tool and it offers the asset simulations. And this topic is so important because you are able to identify how in the time, how around this line of the time, we will have in here the behavior of the assets based on the scheduling of the maintenance and based on the evolution of the condition. So, of course, the application is based on cloud, and we are speaking about 17 years of experience in development this application. We are speaking about that since 1998 we have developed the software that is able to provide to us a real application when we speak about the asset management system. In 2011 it was implemented the first solution based on cloud application. And we have here some partners where basically this professor has published different articles about how could we implement the real asset management systems. Now let me show you how it works. We have here two applications. The first application can be integrated easily on the power system, the strategy for the maintenance, and you have an standalone application when you have here the risk matrix and the RCM calculation, and you have some indicators that are able to provide you if the equipment needs to be replaced, or the equipment needs maintenance, or the equipment is in good solutions, is in good conditions. That we can see here is that we have a lot of assets. Then we need to integrate in a single platform. We need to integrate in a single platform all the information that we are able to find for each asset. So let me show you, for example, here. What we did here is to integrate two transformers. So these two transformers are to illustrate that we are able to add here different attributes. We have the testings for the chemical testings, we have the age, we have the energy not supplied, among other attributes that we can define directly in our asset management system. Now we need to add we need to add what is our asset management system. So in this case, we can identify that in this example, if we use some testings, we are able to identify the health, we are able to use also the age, and we are able to assign the energy not supply as an important topic. Now we define here some assessment values. Maybe, for example, if you have here a value inside of 0 to 35, you can assign here an assessment value, and you are able also to assign here just your weightings. So this weightings is a real black box, and we need to combine here how is the evolution of the asset according to this variable, and even how is the experience when we have an operation of this asset during the operation of that. Now, if we run here an RCN application, we are able to find here for these two transformers, where are they placed. They are placed here in a green zone, and this another transformer is placed in a zone that maybe it needs maintenance. And that we can do here is, if I select this transformer, I will be able to check how is the condition of that based on the attribute that I defined previously. We are able to find that this measurement of this asset is in around 17.5%, and it can be noted that the importance of that is around in 40%. Now, that I could do here is to check the another asset, and the another asset is showing us a different condition. This condition, for example, we added here a new value on this test, and this test means that maybe we need to check with what kind of maintenance do we need to have for this transformer in order to reduce this bad condition. And that we can see also here is that is more important for the operation, because we added here that maybe the energy not supplied by this transformer is bigger than the another one. It is better. It is in better condition, but maybe the another one is more important to that. So really, we have here a scenario where we are able to find also on the map where is the asset, and it allows us to detect different criteria depending on the decision that we must take. Finally, how could we have here an evolution of the asset around the time? I mean, if we define here some simulation parameters, where we have defined here a simulation mode based in statistic method, and we are adding here the maximum operating time, we will be able to check here more or less in which year do we need to replace the asset. And if we are able also to include here the scheduling of the maintenance, we will be able to find here how could we increase the age. I mean, the asset condition will reflect finally if I could use the asset for more or lower time. Okay, I hope that presentation has provided to you different topics and strategies to increase the assets participation. So that we are presenting here are 4 conclusions. The first of all is that the organizational culture that we are able to increase when we have asset management systems is notable. I mean, if we have a new strategies to increasing our strategic plan or our goals in our company, we will introducing a new culture based in our asset management system. The second one is that, of course, as we have noticed, different services in interfaces, diagnostic, simulation, and testing needs to be applied to have real and proper asset management systems. We have proposed the RCM methods and the asset management and the cloud in order to provide you with the strategies for the maintenance scheduling. And finally, making decisions with Neplan AN as an online solution, as I told you before. Now, as I told you, I will share with you this presentation. This presentation will offer to you some references, and those references will have more specification and more topics, maybe in a good way, in order to understanding to you how does the methodologies that we are able to identify in the asset management systems for the network's operation. I mean, whatever network, not only for utility, we are able to find also for industries and even in the context for the organizations like the consulting companies as GERS. Thank you very much. Our proposal is to provide those solutions. Those solutions are for the apps in your cell phones. Those solutions will provide you different criteria, online systems. And of course, I hope to attend your questions and that maybe Gabriela is able to provide me from the chat bot. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Leinyker, for that presentation. We will now begin with the question and answer portion of the webinar. If you have any last-minute questions, please send them in the private chat to the GERS host now. Okay, here we have some questions. Here is the first one. It says, thank you very much for the presentation. I would like to ask what GERS services would be for asset management.
Okay, basically when we speak about the asset management system, we have two topics. The first topic is about the ISO. I mean, if we need to have or demonstrate that our company is according to the standard, we need to introduce a system. We need to introduce a system that is able to provide us strategies and registers and other documentation to follow with that. So in that case, we are able to provide you that assistant. The another topic is for the AEM implementation. For example, which kind of database do you need? Which kind of information are according to your asset management system? What are your assets that offers to you different criteria? What are your critical assets? And of course, if you are an SAP, or ERP, or GIS, how can you integrate that to your asset management system? So what I did was a different questions that you are able to find and when you are going to implement your asset management system, and all of them can be easily implemented by GERS USA. So that is a good question. And even I can show you this. For example, you are able to obtain these applications to your company, and the message here is that we don't have a generic asset management system. Each asset management system is for each company. We need to define it, and we need to implement it. And in that way, it is a project that we will be able to offer.
Okay, great. Here we have another question. What variables or parameters must be entered into the platform?
Okay. In this case, for example, for this example, what I did was added here some parameters of these transformers that they are coming from testings, chemical testings, but it was only for an example. What I mean is that the user is able to define any attribute, and the attribute can be a string, the attribute can be a number, can be binary signals, among other kind of applications when we need to receive different variables. So my answer will be that you can define any variable as an attribute, the age, the date, because the software allows to do that. The software allows that you can process even I don't know, a color, even I don't know if the testing, whatever. So I think it depends of the asset management system. From the asset management system is that you are able to identify which parameter do you need.
Okay, great. We have another question. So, what is the cost of getting the data for entering into the system? And what is the cost to get initial and ongoing conditions of the system?
Okay, that depends. That depends on how big is your database, and that depends the source of the data. Because, as I said, basically each asset management system is for each company. So what we need to detect first is if the information that you have is enough, and if doesn't, what could you do? Do you need to add more testings? Do you need to create a database? Because if we have the database on our GIS, on our SAP, the application will be only to create an interface. And we can create an SQL database, and we can create even Excel forms. But the answer will be that any cost is depending on the time and depending on the availability of the information. So what I can do is to speak directly, because really we will need to know the application that we need in this case. And if the information is not enough, we will need to create that, and that is a different scenario.
Okay, our next question. What databases can I integrate? Can you do decision automation? Based on what criteria?
It's more of like the previous question. Even when we have our list of the assets, I mean the inventory, that is a source of the information. But normally, of course, also the companies have an ERP or SAP. That is another source of the information. The historical profiles, the testings from the laboratory, that is another source of information. And the GIS, the SCADA system. Really, they are different sources, and it depends on which variable do you need. And I think before of implementing an asset management system, we need to detect it. We need to know the variables. And after of that, okay, if we are able to identify, for example, the first example that I showed for the decision, if the line is overloaded, in that case, it will be useful for me, the SCADA system, because it offers for me how is operating the system, and it will help me, telling me, hey, you are having an overloading. Yes, but what I think here is the strategic plan will define your variables, and once you define your variables, you will detect the source of the information. But after you detect the source of information, you can create the interface. And Niplan is able to integrate whatever. Really is very flexible. I mean, you can integrate your GIS, you can integrate your SCADA, you can integrate your SAP using only interfaces for do that. So that is a good question. So, and basically my question will be that it's very flexible. Even if you have Excel forms, you can integrate Excel forms here.
Okay, and our next question, can the asset management module be integrated with the simulation of electrical networks?
Can you repeat me the question, please?
Yes. Can the asset management module be integrated with the simulation of electrical networks?
Okay, I think that question, I will like that question. So the purpose. Why do you need to integrate the asset management system of the simulation of the network? So the first topic that I think here is, for example, the reliability. Because, of course, if you would like to increase the power quality, if you would like to increase the service, the quality of the service, you will have some indicators like the reliability. And those criteria are coming from the simulation of reliabilities. I mean, you need to automate a lot of low flow solutions, a lot of combination of low flows, because with the low flow you will be able to identify how much energy are you not supplying if you have a fault. So I think the first application for that is the reliability simulation, and the answer is yes. You can integrate directly the asset management model with the simulation of the network. It is one of the first applications. So yes, I think that yes.
Okay, great. I think that is all of our questions. So we'd like to thank everyone very much for tuning in today to the Assets Management on the Cloud webinar. We'd like to remind you the recordings will be up on our LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube pages in the coming days. And thank you to Leinyker for the great presentation today.
Okay, Gabriela, thank you very much for you and for all the attendees in this webinar. So I hope it has contributed with different concepts for you. So as I told you, I gave you my contact, and I'll be glad to attend any requirement for the implementation of the asset management system in your company, or even if what you would like is to reduce the cost because the maintenance scheduling. Thank you very much, Gabriela, and all the attendees.